Everyone has called you lazy at some point. Maybe they said it out loud. Maybe they just implied it with a look, the kind that lasts a half second too long when you say you cannot do something today. Maybe you have been the one saying it to yourself, lying in bed at 2 in the afternoon, wondering why you cannot just get up and function like a normal person. But what if lazy is the wrong word entirely? What if the thing you have been calling laziness for years is actually something completely different? Something that has nothing to do with motivation or discipline or character. Something that is happening inside your nervous system right now that no amount of willpower can override. Because there is a difference between a person who will not and a person who genuinely cannot, and that difference changes everything about how you see yourself. This video is about the 7 signs that you are not lazy. You are mentally exhausted. And by the end of it, you are going to understand your own mind in a way you never have before. Sign 1. You are exhausted before the day even starts. Normal tiredness responds to sleep. You sleep 8 hours, and you wake up less tired than when you went to bed. That is how a rested body works. But mental exhaustion does not work this way. Mental exhaustion is not in your muscles. It is not in your body. It is in the part of your brain responsible for regulating emotion, processing experience, and managing the weight of being alive in a complicated world. So you sleep, and you wake up, and within 10 minutes of consciousness, the weight is back. The same heaviness, the same dread of the day. The same feeling of starting already behind before anything has even happened. This is not laziness. This is a nervous system that spent the entire night processing what the day could not. Because mental exhaustion does not clock out. It keeps working while you sleep, filing the unresolved things, flagging the conversations that felt wrong, building contingency plans for futures that have not arrived. And by the time your alarm goes off, your brain has already done a full shift. You are not waking up from rest. You are waking up from a second job. Sign 2. Small decisions feel impossible. A mentally healthy person can decide what to eat for breakfast in 30 seconds. They look at what is available, pick something, and move on. It requires almost no cognitive resources because their cognitive resources are full and available. When you are mentally exhausted, every decision, no matter how small, feels like it costs something you cannot afford. What to wear, what to reply to a message, whether to make a phone call now or later. These are not complicated decisions, but to your brain, they feel like problems that require more processing power than you currently have access to. So you stall, you avoid. You stand in the kitchen for 4 minutes, unable to choose between 2 things you have eaten 100 times. People watching this from the outside see someone who cannot make up their mind. That was. Someone passive, someone who cannot just decide. What they cannot see is that your brain is running on the cognitive equivalent of 5% battery. And on 5% battery, you can do the basics. You cannot do the extras. And right now, everything feels like an extra. Sign 3. You have stopped finding joy in the things that used to matter. This one is the most quietly devastating, because when laziness takes something from you, you do not miss it. You just did not feel like doing it. But when mental exhaustion takes something from you, you notice the absence. You remember that you used to love this. You can recall exactly what it felt like to want to do it. And now you reach for that feeling and find nothing there. The book you loved sits unread because you cannot concentrate long enough to absorb a page. The friend you adore feels like too much to manage. The hobby that used to restore you now feels like one more thing on a list of things you are failing to do. You are not bored, you are depleted. And depletion does not feel like emptiness. It feels like grief, like something was taken from you and nobody noticed, and you cannot even fully explain what is missing. Psychologists call this anhedonia, the reduced capacity to experience pleasure, and it is one of the most reliable indicators that a person's psychological resources are not just low, but critically low. This is not a personality trait. It is a warning signal. Your mind telling you something has been running on empty for too long. Sign 4. You are irritable about things that never used to bother you. You snapped at someone today for something small, something that 6 months ago would have been completely insignificant, and then you felt terrible about it. And then, the feeling terrible became another weight to carry. And now you are exhausted and guilty, and you do not even fully understand why you reacted that way. Here is the neuroscience. The prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for emotional regulation, patience, impulse control, requires significant cognitive resources to function properly. When those resources are depleted by mental exhaustion, the prefrontal cortex becomes less effective. Your emotional responses become faster, sharper, and harder to modulate. The filter between feeling something and expressing it gets thinner. So you are not becoming a worse person. You are becoming a more exposed one. The irritability is not your character. It is your brain running without the resources it needs to manage itself properly. A car running on empty does not drive smoothly. Neither does a mind. Sign 5. You cannot be present even when you want to be. Someone is talking to you, someone you love, someone whose words matter to you, and you are looking at them. You are nodding in the right places, but you are not there. Something in your mind keeps pulling you somewhere else, to the thing you forgot to do, to the conversation from 3 days ago, to the feeling you cannot name that sits underneath everything. And you hate this about yourself. You have tried to be more present. You have put your phone down. You have taken the breaths and done the techniques. And still, you sit across from people you care about and feel the specific loneliness of being physically present and mentally somewhere else entirely. This is not a discipline problem. This is what happens when a mind that is already carrying too much is asked to do one more thing. Being present requires cognitive resources. It requires the ability to direct and hold attention. When those resources are exhausted, attention becomes uncontrollable. It goes where it goes, not where you point it. The person who cannot be present is not selfish. They are spent, and nobody can pour from a container that has been empty for a very long time. Sign 6. Your body is sending signals. Your mind keeps ignoring. Headaches that arrive by mid-morning. A heaviness in the chest that is not quite pain, but is not quite nothing either. Tension in the jaw, the shoulders, the back of the neck, places that hold what the mind refuses to put down. Disrupted sleep. Appetite that swings between nothing and everything. A physical tiredness that sleep does not fix. Mental exhaustion is not only mental. The mind and the body are not separate systems. What the mind carries, the body eventually carries too. Your body has been telling you something for a long time. The signals started small and you ignored them because you had things to do and people to be responsible for and a life that required you to keep going. And now the signals are louder, not because your body is failing, because your body has run out of quiet ways to get your attention. Sign 7. You keep waiting to feel ready, and the ready never comes. There is something you need to do, something important. Maybe it has been there for weeks, maybe months, and every day you tell yourself today might be the day. Today might be the day you feel ready enough, rested enough, clear enough to start. And every day, the ready does not come. And the thing stays undone, and you call yourself lazy for not starting. But readiness is not a character trait. Readiness is a resource. And when the resource is exhausted, the readiness cannot come, not because you are avoiding the thing, not because you do not care about it, but because your brain is genuinely operating without the fuel it needs to initiate. Psychologists call this executive dysfunction, the impairment of the brain's ability to plan, initiate, and sustain goal-directed behavior, and it is one of the clearest signs that mental exhaustion has gone beyond the surface and into the architecture of how your mind functions. You are not waiting because you are lazy. You are waiting because you are a person who has been running at full capacity for so long that the tank is not just low. If you watched this entire video and recognized yourself in more than 3 of these signs, I need you to hear something directly. You are not broken. You are not weak. You are not lazy. You are someone who has been carrying more than anyone around you can see. This channel exists to give that recognition to the people who need it most. Every week, always this deep, always this honest. Welcome to Decoded Psyche. Thanks for watching. Join now.